What actors can learn from Andrew Huberman. Hey everybody, I'm Matthew Cornwell with Get Taped here in Atlanta, Georgia, one of Atlanta's original audition taping services, which I co-own with my amazingly talented, beautiful wife and best friend, Brooke. And now onto our topic. You know, it doesn't quite feel right here. I think we should change locations. Yeah, this feels better. And if you don't know Andrew Huberman, then you didn't get my joke. Sorry, not sorry, because you also might not be on the internet if you don't know who he is, because he's pretty much become ubiquitous over the last couple years with his science podcast, the Huberman Lab. I'll link his website and YouTube channel in the show notes below if you want to go down that rabbit hole, which I did at the start of 2023, thanks to one of our employees, Katie. Thanks, Katie. Now, his content is educational for all humans, but I found that as I adopted certain protocols that he shared, the benefits became very apparent for me as an actor. So today I want to share several of those protocols in hopes that you might be inspired to think more deeply about how you treat your mind and your body every day, not just on those days that you get to act. Let me set the stage with the following thesis. As an actor, a lot of what plagues me is trying to self-regulate my body and my state of mind when on set or at a callback or a live Zoom audition. In short, when the stakes are high. From dealing with the obvious, nerves and anxiety, to building stamina for a job that might be multiple days, weeks, or months on set, I can think of none of my old acting teachers that covered these important topics. I mean, we can talk about eye lines, script analysis, taping instructions, and craft all day long, but that's not enough. To use a sports analogy, we can talk about the rules, we can talk about the technique in the batting cage, running drills, etc. But what about game time? What are the daily habits that keep us poised to play at our best? And what about dealing with the nerves when it is time to play ball? Funny how, as a former mechanical engineer myself, I've had to return back to science to find some of these solutions. So, without further delay, here are some of the protocols I've adopted from Andrew Huberman since early 2023 that have directly benefited me as an actor. Now, keep in mind, he has so many episodes on so many topics. And personally, I've only listened to a small fraction of his content, so this video is by no means exhaustive. And this is where he'd probably talk about 2 or 3 of his sponsors, of which I have none, so we'll just get right to it. Now, I'm going to tease that at the end of this video, I'll cover a very profound topic, so stick around for that. And I'll start with something so simple that you can apply it right now or anytime you're feeling stressed. And that is something called the deep physiological sigh. Okay, so there's a lot of breathing hacks out there to reduce or relieve stress. Box breathing, 4-7-8 breathing, etc. But there's one in particular that your body does naturally, and that is the physiological sigh. Now, I'll put a link below to Huberman and one of the episodes where he talks about this, but in a nutshell, the physiological sigh is something that you do spontaneously, unconsciously, about every 5 minutes. And if you think you don't, trust me, you do. And it goes a little something like this. A deep inhale, oftentimes followed by another short inhale, followed then by a long exhale. Yeah, we do it all the time. And now that I've sort of called your attention to it, you might notice yourself doing it while driving or reading a book or doing some other menial task where your focus isn't too distracted by anything else. But here's the hack. By doing it intentionally, when you're experiencing high stress, like when you're on set about to shoot that first take, you can reduce your stress very quickly. As a side note, something that Huberman mentioned in one of his podcasts, if you read on your phone a lot, it actually can suppress this physiological sigh. So be careful if you're in a waiting room, virtual or in real life, or if you're on set in your cast chair about ready to go on set and you have some nerves, you might be suppressing your very natural physiological sigh if you spend that whole time on your phone reading your script, reading the news, doom scrolling on Facebook, etc. So be very careful about using your phone during those high stakes situations to distract yourself or to calm yourself. You might actually be suppressing a very natural physiological thing that is designed to regulate your blood pressure, your anxiety, and you don't want to do that. So be careful about these things. Now I want to move to a group of protocols that collectively make up my morning routine. And yes, I've taken each of these from Andrew Huberman himself. The first is your wake up time, and along with that, your bedtime the previous night. I wake up now, because of Huberman, the same time every morning, and I go to bed the same time every night. That actually means that, yes, I don't sleep in on Saturdays or Sundays or on holidays. I vary up the wake-up time, maybe by 15 minutes here or there. And of course, if I have an early call on set, then I might have to adjust it for that. But by and large, I am waking up at the exact same time every morning, going to bed around the exact same time every night. By having this fixed routine, it trains your body and your circadian rhythm to get into a groove, so to speak, so that your body starts to predict when it should start winding down at the end of the night. And you don't have to use supplements or any other substances or protocols to wind down. Your body will start to naturally do that. Likewise, I find myself waking up oftentimes 5 to 10 minutes before my alarm, which is great because then I don't have to do that dreaded snooze where you snooze for 9 minutes and then when you wake up, you actually feel worse than if you had just woken up at the first alarm. So whether you're a morning person or a night owl, whether you think you need 5 hours or 10 hours of sleep, all of that you can determine on your own. You should attempt to set a very strict schedule for when you go to bed and when you wake up. Another added benefit that plays into the next couple protocols is that by doing this, by having a predictable routine, you won't need as much caffeine, and you won't need it immediately upon waking out of bed in the morning. Which brings me to my next protocol, which is delayed caffeine or no caffeine. Huberman says that you should delay caffeine intake 90 to 120 minutes after waking. And the result of this, the benefit of waiting longer to start drinking caffeine, is that you will not have that afternoon crash where you need even more caffeine middle of the afternoon. And one of the side benefits of that, other than just feeling more even throughout the day, is if you are sensitive to caffeine and you're drinking caffeine at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon to do that afternoon pick-me-up, well then when you try to go to bed that night, no wonder you're having trouble falling asleep, because if you're sensitive to caffeine, it can take more than 10 hours for the effects of it to fully have made its way through your system. And so, depending on your bedtime, if you're drinking caffeine later into the afternoon or evening and you're sensitive to it, it could be preventing you from falling asleep. So, delaying caffeine intake 90 minutes to 2 hours after waking can have a very positive benefit of eliminating that afternoon crash. Okay, these next two I'll lump together, which are cold exposure and morning sunshine. So when I roll out of bed in the morning, the first thing I do, if I luckily avoid doom scrolling on my phone, is I jump straight into a cold shower, as cold as my shower can get. I turn on the water and I jump in. Side benefit, since I'm not warming up my water, I'm neither using my water heater nor am I using excess water, which can actually save you money. That's just a bonus benefit. But by jumping into a cold shower, which in the summertime isn't as hard because it might already be a little warm in the room or in the bathroom. In the wintertime, it takes a lot more mental fortitude, but that's kind of the point. By jumping into this cold shower intentionally, I'm telling my body that I can do hard things. And you should not underestimate the power of increasing your mental fortitude, especially in such a difficult industry as the acting industry, the Hollywood industry, the TV and film industry. Now, I'm telling you, even after doing this for a year, that initial shock of the cold water hitting me is worth 2 cups of coffee. It hits me instantly, which, if you think about coffee or any other form of caffeine, it can take 20 minutes or longer for it to really take effect. This cold water, it affects me immediately. I am already feeling woken up and I haven't even finished my 1 to 1.5 minute shower. Yeah, these don't have to be long showers. You can take a proper shower later with warm water if you want. But this cold shower, this cold exposure, and if you want to go crazy and get a cold plunge where you fully immerse, great, go for it. But the cold shower can still have some of these benefits, which is improving your circulation. It can affect your immune system in a positive way. It has some good medical benefits that are documented with some peer-reviewed research. Wow, I'm starting to sound like Huberman. But bottom line, I'm doing it mostly for the mental fortitude and for waking up. Now, after I get out of that cold shower, one of the very next things that I do is make my way downstairs, put on my shoes, and I go walking outside looking for morning sunshine. There's a lot of trees where I live, so it's sometimes hard to find those pockets of sunshine. But the key here is to get early morning sunshine, low angle sunshine. Or to think of it differently, before the sun has gotten to that point where the UV rays are starting to become a concern. So if sunrise is 7 a.m. or around there, somewhere in the spring or summer, you don't want to be getting the sunshine after 10, 11 a.m. The sun is too high at that point. By getting early morning sunshine, you're helping to reinforce your circadian rhythm. There's more science that I can't remember that Huberman talks about ad nauseum, but just suffice to say, it not only helps with your wakefulness and setting, again, this routine for your body so that you feel tired at the appropriate time each night, but it also is just very nice to go outside and commune with nature first thing in the morning and to go for a walk. I will pair this sunshine with a quick 10-minute walk. And sometimes that means I'm walking backwards so that I can still face the sun, which, yes, that's a little weird, but according to the knees over toes guy on Instagram, walking backwards is, I guess, really good for my knees. So there's that. But that's a different podcast altogether. Oh, and according to the science, you only need 3 to 10 minutes of sunshine if there aren't many clouds. If it's direct sunlight, you don't need more than 3 to 5 minutes for you to get the positive effects of that sunshine. Don't stare directly at the sun. That's weird, but face the sun. Be facing towards the sun. Do not wear sunglasses and do not look through a window. You're actually not going to get all the effects and all the positive benefits by doing that. So no sunglasses, no windows. Certainly you can put sunscreen on to protect your skin. If it's a little bit cloudy, you might need to stand out there for 10 or 15 minutes if the sun is still kind of bright, but not direct. And if it's a really cloudy, overcast day, it still works, but apparently you have to be outside for more than 30 minutes, which can be a tough ask depending on your schedule that day. Okay, now I'm going to do a deep physiological sigh before I talk about this next tip because it will alienate many people as it initially did to me when I first even thought about listening to the episode that Huberman did on alcohol. When I heard that people were giving up alcohol just cold turkey, I avoided listening to this episode. But then Brooke and I eventually did listen to it on a road trip, and it was combined with us reading a book called The Naked Mind. And I'll link the alcohol episode and this book in the show notes below. Look, I get it. You don't want to hear how bad alcohol is for your body. I didn't. Brooke and I, we were regular beer and wine drinkers, especially during the 2020 lockdown. But, you know, we were intrigued enough by the podcast and this book to try a dry month. We started that on August 1st of 2023, and we are still dry as of this moment of me recording this podcast, which is over 9 months, I think, if I'm doing my math correctly. And I won't go into all the reasons why we felt so compelled or all of the scary science behind why alcohol is legitimately a poison for your body. But I will say that the things that I've really enjoyed as a result of giving up alcohol are, well, never having to worry about having that foggy brain the day after having a couple beers or a half a bottle of wine, let's be honest. Never having a headache. so never being hung over, feeling more clear-headed every day of my life, not having varying levels of energy based on whether or not I had drinks last night, never having puffy eyes or bloodshot eyes or any of those other effects that you feel the day after drinking alcohol. It was also fascinating to realize that I could be happy, I could have fun, I could be relaxed without alcohol. It became clear to Brooke and I that whether or not you want to call something an addiction, at the very least, we had developed a habit, an association with relaxation, with unwinding for the night with a beer or a glass of wine. And you start to assume that you need those things in order to achieve those emotions when the science just doesn't back that up. And quite honestly, like I said, after we took it off the table, you realize you can achieve those same things. You can be relaxed without it, and you can have fun without it. Go figure. Now, I'm not here to preach that you need to give up alcohol. That is a personal decision. But for the sake of your career, please do not be drinking alcohol the night before going on set, or even having a live audition, or just any audition. You shouldn't be drinking before that, before performing. And you certainly should not be drinking the night before taking new headshots. Let's just say 2 nights before, depending on your age. If you watch our I Wish Actors Knew series, and if you watch specifically the episode with Beth Pilgreen, who was the makeup artist, she talks about this. She says that if you're in your 20s, you could probably get away with only 24 hours of being dry so that it doesn't affect your puffiness of your eyes, bloodshot, your skin, etc. When you're in your 40s, you're going to have to give yourself 2 or more days to allow the effects of the alcohol to dissipate such that you're back to your normal self. And that can be a lot to manage if it's a busy season where you've got multiple auditions per week, or you're rocking it and you're actually booking and you're on set more than a couple days and you want to celebrate after that first night on set with a drink. Be careful, because for continuity reasons, you don't want to come back to set the next day with puffy eyes and hungover and just tired, and you have foggy brain and you can't memorize your lines. So just be aware of your own limitations. I'm not even talking about driving. I'm just talking about for the sake of your career. Be careful about when you choose to drink because of all of these residual effects. Okay, so if you tuned out that whole section, hopefully you're still watching, because the final tip or protocol that I want to talk about is the importance of play for you as an actor. Huberman loves to talk about the plasticity of your brain, the neuroplasticity of your brain. Essentially, it just means the ability of your brain to continue to learn and expand and form new connections. And largely after the age of 25, our capacity for neuroplasticity goes down, but it never goes to zero. We can always learn new things and make new connections. And according to the science, the most important portal into neuroplasticity is play. In other words, play isn't just a childhood or athletic activity. It is something that is crucial at every stage of our life if we want to continue to expand our brain, to make new connections. And I'm going to quote a few of the nuggets that I got from his episode about play, which I will also link in the show notes below. One of the things that Huberman says is that play is an exploration of contingencies. We can expand our catalog of potential outcomes. Now, as an actor, I want you to start thinking about something like improv class. If you were taking an improv class, it just seems obvious how important the idea of play is. But then you can start to expand this into your whole career. I think it's why some actors maybe shy away from improv. They have reached a point in their life where they're starting to get more of a fixed mindset. They're not thinking about expanding their potential outcomes anymore. They have one outcome that they're after, which is booking more. And ironically, the key to booking more is to release this obsession on outcome and instead focus on process. And that's where play is so important and can be so helpful to us. And Huberman talks about the key to really benefiting from play, and again, think about improv class, is to expand the number of outcomes you're willing to entertain in a low-stakes situation. Improv class is always a low-stakes situation, at least when Brooke and I teach it. And you need to experience mild discomfort. Who feels mild discomfort when doing improv? Improv can be a perfect vehicle for exploring and experiencing play as an actor. And Dr. Huberman even talks about how you can go to an art show, you can listen to new music or watch movies and other new experiences like that. And those can be awe-inspiring. That's a whole completely different topic. But it doesn't necessarily teach you about new predictions about what's coming next. Your brain is not working to think about new possibilities, not in the same way when you are exploring play. Now, here's a crucial nugget of wisdom straight from Huberman. If you're focused on outcome, you restrict your ability to play and to play well. So maybe by focusing on the booking, you're actually sabotaging yourself a little bit. The state of playfulness is what allows you to perform best because you can engage in novel behaviors that you wouldn't be able to access if you're too worried about outcome. Wow. That really hits home because when I am focused on the booking or even just focused on getting the best audition put on tape, I lose my ability to get lost in the role and to discover things in the moment that excite me, that show me these new possible outcomes, even when there's a script, even when the sort of outcome, if you will, is predetermined because it's written for me. If I'm open to this state of play, and if I am not so focused on outcome and whether or not I'm going to book this role and make insurance and be able to pay rent, then I'm actually going to discover something new. And it's funny because here at Get Taped, when I'm taping an actor who is so focused on outcome, but then something happens spontaneously in the middle of their scene that they weren't expecting, that they didn't plan, they panic. They want to do it again because it didn't go the way they thought it was going to go. And man, I know that Brooke and I and the rest of our staff here, we just sort of shed a sort of an imaginary tear when that happens because we get to experience on our side as the objective observer this amazing piece of raw humanity that just slipped through in that performance. But the actor, focused on outcome again, thinks it's some sort of liability and they want to do it again to make it perfect. By doing that, they're just reinforcing their own fixed mindset and they're not cultivating this growth mindset that is so crucial to being an artist. In short, play is good for your brain, and it's really the best way to expand your ability to experience and expect and explore different outcomes, to build new connections in your brain, to be creative. And isn't that one of the keys to being an actor, to being any artist? Got to be creative. Okay, so that's just several of the protocols, hacks, and mindset resets that I've picked up in listening to Andrew Huberman over the last year and some change. He has tons more to offer, including the science of goal setting, how to be your best self, and so forth and so on. Too much for one video on my channel. He can go on for 2 to 3 hours on his channel. So if you got the time, or if you just want to listen to it on double time, check it out. Again, I'll put some links in the show notes below. Because whether or not you like Huberman, some people don't. Because, you know, now that he's a celebrity, if you will, of course there's going to be haters. It's really hard to argue with the science. And for me, now that I have sort of the anecdotal proof of how it's affected my life, it's even harder to argue with it. But as an artist, it can be hard to find that inner discipline and drive to establish rigorous habits. For me, it's a simple question of, do I want to be ready when the opportunity comes? Or do I want to be scrambling to get ready when the opportunity comes? Food for thought. As always, I want to thank you for your interest in science. Wow. Okay. Yeesh. That is not what I meant to say. I'm actually using a different microphone. That microphone was fake the whole time. Let's go back to the basement. That's it for now. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on set.